What up, HyperChange? We have an epic podcast today. I've got a Seattle snack industry legend joining the show. Josh, what up? How you doing today?
Great. Awesome. Thanks for having me.
Full disclosure, I'm an investor in his awesome snack company, South 40 Snacks, and I thought it would be really cool to have a discussion about what it's like to build a snack startup, working in the food industry, because these are products that we touch every day. Like we consume them, they're part of our daily lives, but they don't get the hype and the shine of like, what's the new AI company worth 100 billion losing gazillions of dollars. So I'm excited to kind of dive into the snack industry. So you originally started out, I think, as a newscaster and then started a company called Sahale Snacks, which is was a big success, famous snack company maybe people have heard about. But tell us a little bit about why, what's so cool about snacks? Why did you decide to go into the snack industry and make this your career?
Yeah. Well, I mean, this snacking is, people snack more than they sit down and eat meals, right? It used to be 3 square meals a day, maybe not a lot of food in between. Now people graze throughout the day. So snacking is a huge opportunity. It's a huge growing industry. It's also, kind of what really attracts me to the industry is innovation, and kind of bringing innovation to the category, the broad category of snacking. Within the snack food category, obviously, there's lots of subcategories of, from salty snacks to natural snacks to you name it. And I think that it's, I'm a foodie. I love food. I love cooking. I love great tasting food, and I think there is literally a dearth of great tasting food in the snacking world. There's a lot of innovation, but there's just not a lot of delicious food.
Yeah.
Right. And so I think that that's kind of the opportunity. That was the opportunity we found with Sahale Snacks, really kind of looking at the trail mix category and trying to figure out, well, how do we elevate that? And I think we did so. And in the process, really kind of created a whole new category of nut snacks that didn't really exist before. And I think, similarly, we're in the bar category now, building out a platform of nutritious bars. And there too, I think there's just an opportunity. In our case, it's very much kind of about back to basics, like less ingredients, less highly processed ingredients, and really kind of back to basics in terms of, not only ingredients people know, but minimally processed ingredients that, are delicious.
Yeah, and I think that hits on such a big trend because I'm always thinking the bigger the problem, the bigger the opportunity. So how many things do we eat per day that are processed, that are bad for us, where we don't really know the nutrition or we don't know where it comes from? That seems like a huge kind of untapped idea. So I love that you're focusing on that. And before we get into South 40, your new startup, can we talk about Sahale? Because that's, when I say snack industry legend,
Yeah.
I actually mean it. You sold your company, started it and then sold it to Smuckers, had a big exit there, and just saw a lot of success. So I'm curious if you could give us a crash course on your Sahale journey and what you learned on that.
I think, we kind of looked at trail mix and saw raisins and peanuts and M&Ms and just wasn't that tasty. And so, at Sahale, we got very complicated. We brought sort of chef-inspired recipes and, made really quite complex snacks in a way, in terms of kind of elevating trail mix. I think in this case, it's really more back to basics. So, our products have typically 4 ingredients in our nut bars. Our fruit bars have 1 or 2 ingredients typically. So it's really kind of an opposite approach. And when you look at our packaging, it's all about simplicity and transparency. I'd like to think that we're kind of taking both of those concepts, simplicity and transparency, next level.
Yeah, totally.
Certainly some of our predecessors had a huge impact doing so. Kind Bar, for instance, 15 years ago, were with their clear, mostly clear bags, and RX Bar is another great example, kind of really outlining, what's in the bars. And I'd like to think we're kind of taking it next level, and consumers connect with that. To your point, they want to know what they're putting in their bodies.
Yeah.
And, it's certainly
And you see the clear packaging, and I feel like not a lot of people appreciate like how much goes into this from like a tech standpoint of like keeping it fresh, making sure there's not all these crazy ingredients that are preservatives, which I feel like there's a gazillion corners to cut in the bar industry or even just food industry in general. So how do you balance like trying to bring that transparency without cutting the corners that so many other people do?
Yeah, well, I mean, it all starts with the ingredients, right? It all starts if you again you look at the pistachio bar.
Yeah.
I mean, it's clear what this is. I mean, those are pistachios. Those are beautiful, in this case, Turkish pistachios. Our slogan is "What you see is what you eat," and like we mean it. You know, like there's no question this is a pistachio bar. There's no question this is a cashew bar. You'll notice the Arabic on this one because we're launching in Starbucks across the Middle East.
Nice.
So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, and it goes great with
Arabic
coffee
packaging. But again, I think like this is the French packaging because we're launching in Starbucks in Spain this month as well, or France.
Yeah.
Spain and France actually. But again, yeah, I think kind of what you see is what you eat. Super transparent. If you're a cashew lover, this is mostly cashews and not much else. Same thing with pistachios. You know, most bars, they're covered. You can't see them, and they may have a cashew flavor or a pistachio flavor, but maybe there's just a couple pistachios in the entire bar.
Yeah.
This is like full of pistachios. So I think, it starts with the ingredients. We're obsessive about our ingredients. We're obsessive about origin and varietals and where they come from and the quality of the incoming ingredients, not only in terms of food quality, but also just in terms of sustainability and ethical sourcing and kind of knowing where they come from and how people are treated on the ground, and also kind of, from sort of, from farm to mouth, right? Like really each and every one of our nuts, we know the suppliers.
Yep.
And we know their processes, and we can
you
stand,
visit
and we
a
can
lot of
stand
the
behind it. So I don't just look at this as commodity nuts.
Yeah. Okay. See, that's an interesting thing.
That go in. I'd say most bars in this country come from large co-manufacturers, and the commodities are just the commodities. They're the same, chopped cashews they put in every bar they make.
Yeah.
And we're very, very specific about kind of where the raw materials, the ingredients come from, the quality of the ingredients, but also kind of the backstory in terms of ethical sourcing, which is just important to us, and I think important to more and more consumers all the time. So we're starting to put these QR codes on the back of our bags, so we don't have much room to communicate on our bags, but we think with QR codes, really
this is nice,
helping tell kind of the story of how our nuts are grown and harvested and processed and why we pick them.
And you've educated me a lot about just learning about South 40 throughout the years, like even just the cashew, for example. Like you sell these cashews, these raw cashews that are like the biggest cashew I've ever seen. And then after that, I had trouble like going back. Every time I saw a cashew after that, I was like, oh, this is a small, crappy cashew. So you think of it as a commodity, but really each of these crops have all these different grades. And I think the QR code's awesome because I do feel like that's one thing South 40 could like go harder on, is telling people about kind of the story behind the ingredients, because so much goes into like creating this. And then I feel like that's like getting to the hill, and then the whole other battle is like, well, now how do you tell people about what you built? And like,
and that's a challenge,
not
frankly. I mean, I'm really we're experimenting, trying to figure out how do you tell the story without just using kind of the buzzwords that everybody uses. Talk about fair trade or sustainability. I mean, what does that mean exactly? It means a lot of different things. And also, I think just for a lot of people, goes in one ear and out the other.
It's kind of like... Exactly, because you don't know it. And like you visited at all, like you actually visit the places and like these factories and like... and go to all these crazy countries where you source the best ingredients. So can you talk a little bit about that? Because I feel like that's a level where you're really going deep in the supply chain. And that's a big difference behind the scenes of what's happening.
Yeah, no, for sure. So the nut bars, for instance, we have a partner in Greece, a family that's been making these bars for decades.
Yeah, these ones.
They're very kind of traditional Greek or Mediterranean nut bars. Maybe not so unique there, but here super unique because you go into the bar category and it's all protein and, it's about, the focus is on, kind of building muscle mass and losing weight. And we kind of take a different approach. This is really about taste and elevated taste. Good nutrition, good protein, more nuts than I think any other bar on the market. So you got good protein, but like we don't kind of tout protein. That's not.
You're not trying to like gamify the stats of.
It's not our positioning, and and again, we have 4 ingredients, so you're not going to find these ultra processed protein powders and functional fillers in our product. Like
Yep.
it's just not. It impacts the taste.
And I would say you're almost the antithesis to like the David bar, which we've seen Peter Rahal launch. And like, it's funny because I saw he has like some controversy on X and people like, these all ingredients are crazy, like these are bad. And then you'll see the David team reply and be like, well, we're optimizing for like the cheapest, yummiest, most protein, like blah, 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 and like using science to do it. So I feel like that's, in some ways, I almost respected how extreme they took that of like, but I see these as like polar opposite.
Totally.
Kind of ends of the spectrum.
Peter's a great guy and he's going to be super successful. There's plenty of people out there and that's what they want.
Yeah.
And so it's just, I personally think that the kind of opportunity we're chasing is a much bigger market because it's really kind of the mainstream market.
Not just for protein bros.
It's why, exactly. I mean, it's just, I think it's a much bigger market. And it's, kind of less about trends, I think, and more kind of about kind of, just kind of what ultimately, if you ask most people, what do they care about most in a bar, whether it's a energy bar, protein bar, nutrition bar, number one is always taste.
Yeah.
They always say taste.
I mean,
first.
for all food.
Let's go, right? There you go. So, but no, I think kind of where it comes from, not only from sort of the farm level, but kind of how the product is made. It is somewhat artisanal, what we're doing here. And so, the process is important. Not made by a big co-manufacturer, kind of punching out bars for a lot of different brands. Mm-hmm. Same thing with our fruit bars. Our fruit bars come from Ghana and West Africa. And
we got to show because this is a feat of like technology. Sorry, keep going though.
So they're super interesting. Smallholder farmers across West Africa, Ghana, Ivory Coast, and the fruit is all of the the skin from the pineapples and the mango, the shells from the coconut. It's all used to kind of power the facility where the processing facility where the bars are produced. So we think that's pretty cool. And just, the people behind it, kind of what they're doing for the communities there is super impressive. And again, you can go to our website and learn more about it. But
like it's a cool, you're supporting this whole supply chain with your purchase. And it seems like a very like doing the right way kind of supply chain.
Yeah,
which is cool.
We'd like to think so. I mean, look, after Sahale, I spent a lot of time traveling the world and, I find people who are doing amazing things and making amazing products. And if I see there's an opportunity to bring that to the U.S., that's how it got started.
And I was going to point out that this is 2 ingredients in this pineapple bar: pineapple, passion fruit juice. This one from the mango bar literally just has only mango.
1 ingredient.
I think the mango pineapple has mango, pineapple, and lime.
A little lime. So three ingredients.
So it's like these are literally just like ingredients you can pronounce, ingredients And I feel like I said it was like a feat of technology, which might sound like an exaggeration, but getting this shelf-stable product from Ghana, and actually also when you're dehydrating it, you're compressing it, and so instead of like shipping the fresh mangoes, you're consuming this bar. It's like you're not going to get really good fresh mangoes from Africa or some tropical place, let's say in Seattle across the U.S. But this, you can dehydrate them and like pack that nutrition so densely.
Then they rehydrate them.
And oh, really?
Well, I think there's a process. If you think about it, mangoes, they get harvested. They need to be frozen. I think like a couple of weeks because they're going to turn. They're going to change.
Oh, like past ripeness.
Yeah. So they get sliced. They get frozen, and then they get turned into strips or they get turned into bars. And that's kind of the process. But yeah, I mean I think the mango out of West Africa is the best in the world. And again, it's 1 ingredient, just mango. I think our main competitor in the fruit bar space has a mango flavor. but it's apple with a little bit of mango. Right.
Interesting.
So, quite different.
And even the level of like talking to your supplier or your partners who help you with the mango, like talking about the brick level. Like they're testing the sugar content of each mango that comes in to make sure it's like the right caliber mango for the fruit bar. So it's not just like these are like the leftover bad mangoes, which I'm sure, I don't know how that all works, but like I just thought it was cool to hear about the thoughtfulness of even the mangoes that come into that facility are like they're so carefully selected. And then it makes me feel special, like as a consumer of like, I'm on the go, I have 2 seconds. And like just before this podcast, I had a mango bar and I like rip it open and I get this amazing, like fresh kind of tasting mango from Ghana with just mango. Like that's what I want to consume. And so I feel like that's what kind of inspired me about South 40 is like, wow, like this is making it convenient and easy to eat these like healthy, simple foods that it seems like we've kind of like lost touch with. And it's like, let's use the technology to make it a shelf stable, perfectly simple package that gets to me like this, not put all this crap in it.
Yeah, I mean, look, the world's a complicated place. Food has become very complicated. But, our whole thing is snacking just doesn't need to be, and it shouldn't be.
I like that.
It just doesn't need to be. So that's why, when we talk about kind of back to basics, that's really kind of, what we're all about.
And I feel like South 40 is such a cool company because it seems like, oh, like this bar space, I keep telling you, I'm like, you gotta hype people up. This kid has $1 billion potential. Like the Kind Bar sold for $5 billion. Kind Bar's all right, but I think South 40 is better. But when I researched and looked into that, I was like, wow, like this is a huge category.
Yeah.
And the way that snacking works is super fascinating. You have people build brands almost at like this breakneck frenetic pace, making zero money for like years, just scaling revenue. And then they almost get bought out at still maybe even losing or break even by these huge food companies and rolled into their network. So I feel like that's the way the consolidation in the food industry works like that is very unique. Like, could you give us a little bit of why is the food industry so like that? Kind of like you come up in M&A and then you get swooped, Yeah,
well, I think, emerging brands grow up and they take shelf space away from some of the legacy products and brands that are there, and they typically get bought by large CPG companies, consumer product goods companies. That's usually what happens. And part of the reason for that is that the large companies also kind of aren't at the forefront of innovation. It's hard for them to do. And so, they buy the emerging brands that are bringing innovation and something new to the category. And then, what often happens is once they're bought, they kind of run their course. They get tired. Consumers look for something new. Sometimes they lose their way, and some companies do a better job than others in terms of kind of maintaining the mojo.
Yeah, the
brand.
Excellence of the brand. It seems like they like put the shitty mango in the second they buy you out or whatever.
Yeah,
like
it depends on the company. I think a lot of companies don't necessarily do that, but I think some companies, they're also not well positioned to sell premium brands. If they have a lot of other more commoditized products or brands, and that's kind of their legacy brands, and that's what they're selling and pushing primarily. A certain emerging brand, and if it's a more premium or a better for you natural brand, sometimes it can be a little bit of a fish out of water for them. They're just not that well equipped to sell it well.
Yeah.
And so I think it's a fun space to be in because, the retailers are always looking for something new, unique, highly differentiated. Whether or not that's kind of really what they go deep with or not depends on the retailer, but they're all looking for that. They're looking to kind of, spruce up their mix. And so it's a fun space to be in, especially if you have something that is truly differentiated, unique, and elevating a category. I'd say the one thing that has changed the most is the internet, social media. I mean, because the reality is that's how most people learn about new, cool products today is social media.
Like what's hot on TikTok.
Absolutely. And so I think, you have to kind of be involved in that. You've got to at least try and figure it out to, as best you can. Some folks nail it. Some brands do. Everybody tries. Few nail it, I would say, in terms of kind of, creating TikTok videos that go viral or what
Yeah, yeah.
have you. I mean, it's it's hard to do.
Yeah, the content game.
It's
No,
hard.
I like that twist of like what impact has the internet had on food?
I mean,
Because
I think that's the biggest change, frankly.
is the way the marketing works.
Yeah, and I think the fact that people have more information, kind of accessible to them, they are more savvy, about what to ask for, what to look for.
And
Again, that ties right into kind of ingredients and minimally processed ingredients and fewer ingredients and that whole transparency piece that we were talking about. I think that is part of why that's just so important today.
yep. And I feel like you had a super innovative launch strategy, which is you started with sunflower seeds and you put them in the produce aisle of the grocery store in like these buckets. So I thought that was so innovative of like positioning it like that's innovation, but it's like just different placement in the store kind of like now we're, this is a natural like fruit thing. We want to be near the fruits and veggies, not like with these like all the bars and cereals and like things that last forever on the shelf with a gazillion ingredients. This is like a natural kind of thing. So
well, I think what's really important is the context in which people discover a great new product, right? I mean, do you discover a great new product because you're walking down the center store of a grocery store? Or do you discover a great new product because you pick it up in an airport or on an airplane or at your gym or yoga studio or what have you? I just think it's like the context in which people discover products is really important. So, we really focus a lot on those channels where people are going to pick up something new and try it. And so that's I think central to our strategy. The other thing, being a bar company versus maybe a chip company or some other company is you really can sell it almost everywhere.
yeah.
We call it our ubiquity strategy, really trying to show up everywhere. And I think, that's important for an emerging brand and how it grows. I think when people say, oh gosh, I see that product everywhere.
Interesting. And so tell us a little bit more about that. Like, why did you pick, clearly you think the bar is like a big form factor for snacks and how we consume stuff. Like why, what's your kind of vision there?
Yeah, I mean, I think, I think like it's a category. I mean, not only is it highly accessible, it's on the go, cafes and yoga studios, wherever people, pick up energy bars. But again, I mean, I was looking at it from the standpoint of how do we elevate the category and really disrupt the category. I think that I'm not a bar eater. I don't buy bars. I don't, I'm not looking for some of the functionality that bars provide. I'd rather just eat really good food.
Yeah.
So that's me.
So that you feel like you were left out of the bar.
It's just, I'm not, I don't buy bars, but when I eat these bars, I'm like, wow, like that is a snack I can really, get behind.
Yeah. And I feel like it feels like something your no would have made, like just like some pistachios with a little honey. Like, it's
like
more...
a handful of nuts, really.
Yeah,
I mean, it's a little handful of nuts. It's just ultra convenient and accessible, in the form factor of a bar. But it is like a handful of nuts.
Yeah.
Right? So it's perfect. And we have some innovation. I'm not going to go too deep into it, but we have a whole nother line of bars too that are just really tremendous. So
which I've tasted and they're insanely good.
So
insanely
I think
good.
Similar ethos, simplicity, transparency, but with a few little surprises as well in there. And so I think I'm super excited about that innovation.
Interesting.
And I think, again, thinking of it as a platform of bars. So you've got nut bars, you've got fruit bars, and then you have these new bars. And thinking of them, each one kind of, addressing a different consumer, maybe not.
Different mood.
Or usage occasion, really kind of a different usage occasion. You might want something a little less sweet or more savory, depending on the day or the time, I should say. And then the fruit bars, I think, in terms of, really thinking of, we think of it more and more as a fruit snack versus like a bar, because I think for kids, I mean, kids really love these bars. We have these new minis that are also
Oh, yeah, the
so
minis.
awesome. They're kind of,
This is a mini pistachio.
yeah, we
which is
have
super cute.
I don't know if we have any.
I
We've
love
got
the
some
minis.
minis around here, but
Yeah,
the
there's a mini
minis
fruit
are,
bar.
yeah, there's a mini fruit bar.
Like, tell me that's not the cutest little snack. I mean,
And just a little bit of sugar, nothing added. It's all natural sugar, but I think,
yeah.
moms are going to feel really good about giving that to their kids, maybe versus a whole bar. So I think big opportunity with the minis as well. But yeah, thinking of a bar platform with different usage occasions and kind of different, different tastes.
Yeah.
And I think that's pretty exciting that, we're doing that.
And I think it has so much potential. We've always gone back and forth, like, what are the new products? What kind of things are you scheming on? I feel like you've really like hit home on like bars. And the more I've kind of like come to appreciate it, I'm like, wow, like there's a reason why this is such a big piece of the category. And it's like, I think a big part of it too is it's like a single use. Like so many other snacks, it's like, oh, it's a bag, but what am I going to do with the chip bag when I eat half of it and then I roll it up and then it's like getting stale and like, I don't know.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I think of. And like this single use, like this is the thing. And then the minis, single use if you want smaller, I think is super cool.
I think the other thing that we're having fun with is, we're becoming a global company, which wasn't necessarily intentional, but the products are made over there. We're also starting U.S. production of the nut bars just to keep up with the demand. But the bars are, originally from Greece.
Yeah.
And we're still working with our partners over there and making the bars, but we're able to ship from Greece, to France, to Spain, to the Middle East. And with a partner like Starbucks, that's pretty cool launch partner. So and the interesting thing also is that in that part of the world, nuts, it's already so central to their diet and their tastes and what they like.
Yeah.
So I think we've had a nice opportunity over there.
And I like what you said about like the Grease bars. It's like these are artisanal. Like that's my favorite word. You always make fun of me for it. But
yeah.
I'm like, but you're like these are actually
I'm
artisanal.
starting to adopt the word too.
Yeah, it's my favorite word. Yeah. No, I do think the bars are artisanal, and that whole, it's like they're, I don't want to say chefs, but like they have to be cooked.
Yeah.
It's not like. It's kind of this interesting balance of like mass production versus like a specialized touch,
Well, I think
and it's not easy to do.
So artisan scale.
Yeah.
Artisan scale. So that's literally what we're doing. It's an artisan process, and how do you scale it? I mean, the larger equipment's up, but it turns out it's just not so trivial.
Yep.
I mean, it's there's some definitely some science and technology in order to do that well, but we're figuring it out.
And so what do you think about the future of like the kind of consumer preference of food in America? Like that's one big reason I love being like supporting South 40 and being invested is I'm like, this is what people should eat. Like 4 ingredients, we can pronounce them all. Like it's like simple food from great farms all over the world, like the best quality stuff, not going to break the bank either. So I'm curious, like, is that obviously the whole natural organic food movement's been going, but I'm curious if it's really like as easy on the back end, or like, do you really see people adopting that, or how do you think the food industry goes, kind of balancing real ingredients, but also all the tech innovation?
Well, look, I mean, natural's been happening for a while, right? I mean, last 20 years or more, it's natural, better for you food is not a trend. It's not a blip. It's a really sort of seismic shift in consumer behavior, a revolution, if you will, and it's here to stay. It's not going away. I think we believe that the next kind of real push is exactly how we're positioning our products, which is kind of transparency and simplicity and back to basics. And I think, to answer your question, I think that's really the most important thing people are looking for today. Even, RFK Jr. is talking about it. I mean, it's
MAHA, Make America Healthy.
Yeah.
Everyone's
Maha moms and all this stuff. So I think he eats products with 3 ingredients, he says.
Oh, really?
Yeah, 3 ingredients. We have 4. Maybe he'll make an exception with our nut bars. But anyway, no,
Well,
I
we could
think
do
it's
mango.
it's a movement. It's a movement, but I think it's not like just a trend.
Yep.
I think, it's people want to know about their food, where it comes from. If they can see it, all the better. You walk into the produce department of a grocery store and you pick up a piece of broccoli. You know what you're getting. You're not looking
Yeah,
for,
and you pick for the best one.
You're not looking for an ingredient statement or something. Organic or non-organic, but it's broccoli.
Yeah.
And you can count on it. So, I think similarly, you pick up one of our pistachio bars, you can count on, the world's best pistachios in a simple nut bar that's delicious.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah. So keep it simple. We like to say less is more or less.
Interesting. I like it.
Less
So,
is-
so what's I guess we can wrap it up. What's like anything to hype up for South 40? What's next? We've got, sounds like some new bar flavors coming, which I'm personally insanely excited for.
Yeah.
But what else? And you guys are doing the minis or in Starbucks in Europe. I mean, you're all over the U.S. with these bars. If you see one, definitely go try one.
Yeah. Well,
Let us know what
we
you
have
think.
some great new retail.
Pistachio is my favorite, but yeah, sorry.
We have some great new retail partners coming on this year and next year. So it's just execution, man. It's just, at this point, it's really just grow the business. And, opening up domestic production is going to be key for us. So, what we're doing, we're going to have European production and U.S. production, and being able to serve, multiple markets is a big focus for us. And I think just it's an emerging brand. And so, the heavy lifting is ahead of us, because it all is about brand awareness and getting people to pick it up. For that, if they pick it up one time, that first time, we're pretty confident we've got them hooked. So it's really like, what can we do to do that, and do that effectively, cost effectively, and intelligently, so that people really kind of get what we stand for. So that's a process.
Yeah.
We're figuring it out.
No, you guys are going to crush it.
You're helping us.
I mean, I've seen South 40 go from just sunflower seeds to constantly innovating with new products, finding what fits, growing and growing. So, been super cool. So thank you for the time. I know this was a little bit different of a podcast than usual, but I mean, this is one of my favorite companies that I've been investing in for 4 years now. And right here in Seattle, right where I'm based. So I feel like it's like one of the most disruptive snack companies in my backyard. And you got to hear from the legend himself. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
And yeah, we'll have to have you back when some new products launch.
Let's do it.
So let us know what you think in the comments, and we'll see you all next time. Peace.